Our next problem is actually asking us for a definition or more of an explanation since it was asked to us. So let us define midpoint, or let us explain midpoint a little bit. Let me write the question number, or I guess there wasn't really a question number. I just like to do the questions in numbers. So our fourth question over here, what is a midpoint? So a midpoint is at its core a point, which is obvious because it's called midpoint. So it's probably a point instead of a line. But basically, a midpoint is very logical sounding, or it's actually really logical, has a really logical definition because mid is half, point is a point. So a midpoint is actually just a point that divides a line segment, or divides a line or array, depending on how you call it and where you're from. So basically it's a point that divides a line segment in half. Line segment in half. So say we have a line segment right over here, and what this point right over here would be the midpoint of this line approximately, because it divides the blue line segment in half. And that is what a midpoint is. And that's all there to it, to the definition of the midpoint. And let me just give you a really common area where really common kind of type of question, or really common area where midpoint was asked, or like where you were asked to find the midpoint. So if you're in grade 9 or 10, or maybe even grade 8, or even grade 7, depending on how fast your curriculum goes, or so if you're in secondary school, ranges from grade 7 to 12, a really common question asked is asking you to find the vertices of a parabola. So what a parabola is just a function that has a graph like this. So usually how to find the vertices of a parabola is just the top point right over here of a parabola. So in order to find the vertices of a parabola, what you do is you find the x-intercepts, or the two intercepts that reaches, or where the line touches the x-axis, so where y is 0. So after you find those two x-intercepts, you're just trying to find the midpoint of this line right over here. So you're trying to find the midpoint of this line over here. And then from finding the midpoint of this line over here, you can find the x-coordinates of the midpoint. So you would find the x-coordinates of the midpoint of these two zeros of your function, and then from this x-coordinate of your midpoint, you can plug it into the function, and then you can find the y-coordinates of this point, of this x-point on the function. And this x and y coordinate pair is your vertices right over here. Really straightforward, right? So yeah, this is a really common area where you are asked to find a midpoint, and it's a really common problem on your exams or in school curriculum. So yep, and here's all I'm going to cover about the concept of the midpoint. Let's take a look at the sample solution given. They just defined the midpoint on the actually, I guess, wrote down the formula, but it's just really easy because you add the x coordinates of the two points together, and then you add, if you want to find the x coordinates of the midpoint, you just add the x's together and divide by 2. If you want to find the y coordinates of midpoint, you just add the y coordinates together and divide by 2. So yeah, and they also give an example, which is just basically plugging numbers into the formula. They didn't mention about parabolas, but again, that's a expression, or that's just an extension. So let's just say correct solution. Yay. And the solution is correct.